for authors, filmmakers, entertainment, and all your listening needs. Listen now to Talk Now Radio, where no topic is taboo.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Talk Now Radio, listener-supported radio, where no topic is taboo. This is your host, Royce the Redneck Radio Man, and joining me today is going to be Tim Swartz, and we're going to be talking about time travel. Before we get into that, however, I'd like to remind everybody that, again, this show is supported by listeners, so if you don't want to have to go with sponsors to keep on the air or shut down, don't forget to visit either the donation buttons or click on the links or the advertisements. If you're going to get one of the books of one of the authors, please do it here on the site. I got it linked to Amazon because we do get a little commission on that. That does help support the show. So if anybody wants to call in and ask questions, the number is 832-632-7904. And if you want to learn more about Tim, he writes for Conspiracy Journal magazine at www.conspiracyjournal.com, which that will automatically redirect you to uforeview.tripod.com/index.html. But the conspiracyjournal.com is probably easier to remember, and you'll end up at the same place. So, Tim, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Royce. Thank you very much for having me on your show tonight.
Well, I want to thank you for coming. I've really been planning to ask you for quite some time. It took me a long time to get around to getting Timothy on here. I don't know if he knows or not, but he was on a week or two ago. Me and him had a fantastic talk.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, when you have Timothy Green Beckley on, it's you're lucky if you're ever able to get a word in edgewise.
Stanton Friedman, but that makes some good guests.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that's, you know, there's a lot of radio shows, you know, they'll send you like a list of questions, or they ask you to send them a list of questions. But, you know, when you have somebody like Timothy Green Beckley on, you don't even have to bother with that. You ask him one question and away he'll go. And next thing you know, your hour is done with. You're like, oh, well, Tim, we're out of time.
Actually, you know, about those questions, I've actually had people send them, and I've had them ask me to send them to them. And you know what invariably always happens? You'll get one or two questions down the line, and next thing you know, the conversation got a life of its own, and the rest of the questions get put on the back burner and never get asked.
That's right. Well, see, now that's good radio for you. You know, that shows that it has a life of its own. You know, because I'm sure that you've had guests or you've listened to radio programs where it just seems like it just drags on and on. The guest is, you know, I mean, they don't want to be there, and you can tell, and it's every answer is, you know, like a monosyllable, you know.
I was about to say, like a robotic script.
That's right.
It's the same old questions. I got the same old answers, and they do commercials like that on TV where they highlight that just as part of the gag.
That's right. So tell me, Royce, how'd you get involved in this? Oh, I don't know.
I think I took the 44 bus to the...
yeah, there you
go. So I just had to throw that one in there. But, I understand you're into a lot of different topics, actually. You know, secret bike projects, Nikola Tesla, secret government, time travel. Tonight we're talking about time travel, but, you know, all of those are fascinating subjects.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, there isn't anything I don't think that I am not interested in when it comes to the weird and the strange. You know, I mean, I love reading and researching stories about, you know, ghost, ESP, Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, UFOs, time travel, conspiracies, you name it. And, you know, I'll find something interesting about it. You know, a lot of it just has to do that I enjoy doing research. You know, to me, there's just something exciting about, uncovering something new or digging around trying to, find the facts about a subject. And, it just so happens that, I've for a lot of years, I've been interested in this kind of stuff. So, then the two just really go hand in hand. I mean, I suppose that if, at an early age, I developed an interest in, say, race car driving or basketball or what have you, then I would be using my talent at researching on those subjects. But, lucky for, those of you out there who are interested in the weird and the strange, there I am. No matter where you go, there I am.
Okay, we got one of my regular listeners in the chat room. When you were talking, I scrolled the chat room back down to see if they had any questions. And this guy sat in there and says, "Send your money in, keep Royce on the air." I guess he wanted me to know he heard me.
Well, that's great. I mean, it's really hard, as you well know, when, to get people to part with their money on these kinds of things. So, I mean, yeah, your listeners out there, dig down deep, contribute and contribute often.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. But coming back on the deal about time travel, that's one I'd like to learn a lot more about, even if it's mental time travel. I mean, because I've done a lot of research into the ancient astronaut theory, and to me that would be a terrific venue to learn more about it by being able to travel, if nothing else, mentally into the past and actually kind of view it yourself.
Well, time travel, Royce, is one of those things that I think has really always fascinated people. I mean, face it, we all have things in our life, in our past that we would love to go back and change. I mean, we look at things.
Becoming a parent, getting married.
Yeah. Those what have yous, or, what if I had done this? What if I had done that? And that's just part of the human condition. I think that, probably as far back as, our ancient ancestors, when they first crawled out of the trees, they probably, sat around the campfire and said, if I could go back, I would never have hit that guy with that rock, So I think because of that, we've just developed this sense that wouldn't it be great if we could travel in time, to go back and change things, or to see how things really happened. Like you said, history and all that. And then, there's the other part that, wouldn't it be great to see what's going to happen to us in the future? And the idea of time travel has really changed quite a bit, really within the last 20 years. I mean, if you go and read books that were written 20 years ago, the concept of time travel was almost strictly within the realm of science fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Scientists, physicists, they really wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole.
That's true. That would be that way back in the 70s even.
Right. And, but I mean, science fiction writers and movies and stuff, that was always a favorite subject. But yeah, I mean, the researching time travel seriously was basically verboten. But then, I think that, I don't know, maybe with Stephen Hawking's, people like that, maybe more physicists.
Pico or God, I always mix up his name, but he's in the forefront of physics today. Shaking a lot of boats. Michio
Kaku. I'm gonna mess his name up as well. Oh yeah. People like that. And then of course with, some better understanding of quantum physics as well. And just the whole, weirdness of quantum physics as opposed to, the large world, so to speak. it became not quite as a bad thing to research and to actually publish your research about the possibility of time travel. I mean, a lot of physicists, most physicists today would say that, currently, our technology would say that, yeah, time travel is impossible. But, who knows, someday it could happen, or maybe it'll never happen, but in theory it could work. I mean, that's where we are now. So, I mean, Einstein actually talked a little bit about time travel and the nature of time, in his general theory of relativity, by basically saying that time as we think about it doesn't exist. It's part of a larger entity called space-time. That our concept of a past, present, and future is it's basically just an illusion based on our physical presence in this reality.
Which I never understood how that could be when you actually had events that occurred during these time and space.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, his concept was that, time and space are the same thing, that you can't have one without the other. And, you think about it, I mean,
Now that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you go and, get in your car and drive over to the next town, it takes time to do that. It takes time to move through that space. You can't just get into your car and instantaneously appear in that spot with, without, also traveling through time, so to speak, though it's always.
Right. If you put a ball in the driveway of or in your driveway in the middle of it there and don't touch it for a week, it hasn't moved through space if it's been there a week or 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. That's very good, Royce. And that is why a lot of theoretical physicists today are saying that our concept, based on Einstein's original theory of relativity, when it comes to time and the expansion of the universe and that sort of thing, may be flawed.
Or maybe you half understood.
Well, that's just it. Somebody asked a physicist one time, you're like, well, what's new in physics? And the answer is, well, nothing. There really hasn't been much new in physics since, the original conceptions of, quantum physics in the 1930s. Well, yeah, I mean, there's been some theorizing when it comes to string theory, but the very nature of string theory can't be proved. Which I don't understand that myself, but, then again, I'm not a physicist.
You don't understand why it can't be proved or how it can work?
Well, why it can't be proved.
Okay, right. So string theory does make sense to you as far as it existing.
Oh, absolutely not. I have no idea what, I've barely been able to get my mind wrapped around, the fuzzy world of quantum physics,
Yeah, I mean, I've had people come on my show, actual scientists that have talked about how, a thing cannot come into being until after it's been observed or decided. It's going to be a wave or it won't be a wave or a particle until you've observed it, and then it becomes what you're expecting it to.
Right. Which that, as you,
it leads you to ask, who originally observed all of creation in the first place then? And then if God always was, who observed him?
That's right.
So you're back to the chicken and the egg.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You've got a chicken or the egg concept, conundrum there. But going back to that point there, when you talk about the observation of reality, if that is the case, and this goes back also to your first question at the beginning of the show about whether or not you could even do like mental time travel. And I think that, there's been some interesting concepts that have been bandied around on the idea that because we are all a part of creation, all right, that, inside of all of us, inside of everything, is basically the universe. We are made up of the universe is made up of us. And since time as we know it is a part of the universe, past, present, and future, that also means that it is a part of us, past, present, and future. So then we should be able to travel mentally into the past or the future, since it is already a part of us. And, there is, Eastern philosophy looks into this quite a bit, and says that that is absolutely possible. Because if you get yourself out of the physical mindset that the past, present, and future are separate things, and that and instead into the concept that that everything is happening at kind of like an eternal now, that then the past, present, and future are easily accessible on a mental level, which, when we say a mental level, that is actually a physical constraint in itself, because that mental level is just as real, if not more real, than the reality that we are experiencing right now. So now wrap your mind around that.
Well, actually, while you were talking, I got to thinking, because I'd heard about this eternal now theory before. Mm-hmm. And because I'd always thought and said, you can't go back in the past. It's already happened and gone. You can't go into the future. It hasn't happened. But then when I was talking to you, for some odd reason, something dawned on me. Has the past really gone? Is the future really not here yet? Or is it a perspective of where awareness is at any given point in time? If I'm right here in Houston, Texas, my awareness is in the perspective of Houston, Texas. However, that doesn't mean that London doesn't exist overseas at the same time.
That's right. That is a very good way to explain that. I mean, I like that. I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna steal that.
Put a plug in from a show when you do.
That's right. That's right. But yes,
I had to ask.
No, that's absolutely correct. I mean, I think that is that is a very good way to put it, because, in order for us to exist in the real world, in reality, okay, we have to basically go through our life with blinders on in order to live without basically going crazy. Because, if we experienced everything as it actually is all at the same time, our minds just could not handle it. I mean, you think about just, all of the different wavelengths of light, all the different, smells, senses, I mean, and we're just talking about things like that. Think about, the other things that are bombarding us in every, different direction, from reality, other worlds, other times, other dimensions, everything like that we are probably perfectly capable of perceiving. But if we did, I mean, we probably
kind of like trying to learn algebra and trigonometry in the same class.
Exactly. And so, Eastern philosophers, yoga masters, people like that, say that these experiences, can be experienced, but it takes almost a lifetime of training in order to learn how to experience them without just completely melting your mind. I mean, these are the people who, can go into a meditation and levitate or disappear and reappear at another location, because they have mastered their mind to such an extent. Yes, and those, and they say, the masters who could do that, they say that, oh, well, those are just tricks. I mean, the real things that we can do are so far beyond, those tricks. That, I mean, we're not even going to dignify ourselves, by doing that. So, I mean, who knows, what they're talking about when it comes to things like that. I mean, they say that, like since we're all basically a part of creation, that we have the ability to create ourselves and to create other realities, so.
How do we know we haven't already created ourselves and hid this fact from ourselves?
Right, exactly. Which then goes into the whole aspect of time travel when it comes to, and I'm sure that you and everybody else has heard of the grandfather paradox.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you go back in time and, kill your grandfather or stop your grandparents from meeting and thus preventing your own birth. But then if your birth was prevented, how were you able to go into the past and, blah, 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 it just becomes a big circle. Well, did you know that recently, a group of scientists, simulated, using, photons, which are single particles of light, to simulate quantum particles traveling back through time, just to see how these photons would react if they ran into themselves into the past.
Really?
Yes, to see if they were capable of interacting with one another through regular space-time. Of course, now this was just a simulation. I mean, they didn't actually create a wormhole to do that. It was, it was, but they used the perspective of what the behavior would be of these photons, interacting with its older self, and actually what happened was nothing. The results show that consistent evolutions can be achieved when preparing the second photon in just the right way. And by definition, quantum refers to the smallest, possible particles that can independently exist, such as photons. And so when these two photons met, it didn't create a paradox like they thought it was going to. Because of the aspect of quantum particles are fuzzy or uncertain to begin with. Okay. So when one meets the other, they basically, go off into, how do I put this? One becomes a wave, one becomes a particle. All right.
So you basically get two outcomes existing in the same moment.
Exactly.
Kind of like a parallel universe.
Right. Yeah, yes, that's it, exactly. And which, that has been something that has been suggested, before by physicists, that the whole idea of the grandfather paradox could not happen because of what's called the branching effect of time. That, if you would manage to be able to go back in time and meet yourself, or meet your grandfather and kill him, or steal your grandmother away from him, yourself, or something along those lines, rather than affecting the timeline that you originally came on, it would actually create another parallel, and I'll put that in quotation marks, a timeline that branches out into a different direction, a timeline that is just as real as the one that you originated from, but it takes on a whole new life of its own, and thus preventing the the paradox as is referred to in physics, which, taking that another step, that could actually be happening anyway, all the time. Every decision that you make, every decision that I make, everything that happens within this universe creates a new timeline, so that you have an infinite number of timelines continuously branching off from each other in all kinds of different directions. So somewhere along the lines there is a timeline, where you don't have this radio show, where, you're a garbage collector, or, you married your childhood sweetheart, or, whatever, Kind
of like those Nancy Drew, Make Your Mysteries As You Go that came out with, what was that, in the 80s or 90s?
Yes.
You had a choice of which way you wanted to go, and each one had a slightly different outcome.
Right, exactly. That has been suggested that is happening all the time to all of us. That every decision that we make creates a whole different possibility going off in different directions. And because our consciousness is universal, so to speak, okay? Our consciousness, that which defines you as you, is the same person on all of those different timelines. All right? So rather than just being one individual in this timeline and then there's another separate you at another timeline, your consciousness that makes up you is the same person at a quantum level all across these different timelines.
And you're kind of like a little piece of you is viewing each one as you live it.
Exactly.
Which is maybe the nature of God, and that's how we are all God, and God is one.
Yep, that could very well be. There's a concept that is being discussed now by a lot of scientists that consciousness is an integral part of the universe. Okay, that the universe would not exist without consciousness. That the two are the same.
I don't see how the universe can be aware of itself without it.
Right, exactly. Well, it's a controversial theory, because you have, there are the materialists who say that, your conscious is strictly within your brain. It's a chemical reaction, electricity, some chemicals, things like that. And, you're separate from everybody else. When you die, your consciousness dies with you. That's it. Goodbye.
The further back you go toward the Big Bang, the further that one falls apart, though.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, you'll still find a majority of, of scientists who at least publicly will admit, publicly will say that that's the way things is, and that, the universe is just, a cold, dead, uncaring universe, that, things just happen, because they happen, and that, we have no control. We have no control. We have no interaction with it. We're just like a grain of sand in the big, universe, uncaring universe. And, but more and more, I think, as people are starting to have a better understanding of reality and our place in reality and science, I think, more and more they're starting to discover that we are an integral part of the universe, that we are all, that we're the same as the universe, and that we couldn't exist without the universe, and it couldn't exist without us.
Or it wouldn't have any pleasure of existing without us, I would be willing to bet in any case.
Oh yeah, yes.
I mean, we are the experiencer and the creator in a sense, if you ask me. Of course, that's just my own thoughts on the subject. Now, with that genocide in the chat room wanted me to ask you how Commander X factors into the book, and also if it's the same Commander X that talked about human clones and what have you. And I told him I'm banking that he is the same Commander X.
Yes. The book that you're referring to is called Time Travel, Fact Not Fiction. And this is a updated version of an earlier book that I co-wrote with Commander X called oh my gosh, what was that called originally? It was called like Time Travel, How to, what was it, like a Time Travel, a How-To Guide, I think was the original title that Timothy Green Beckley, the publisher, came up with. And this was a book that Commander X originally had signed a contract with Tim Beckley's Global Communications to write, along with a couple others. And due to health issues, partway through the book, he was not able to finish it. So Tim Beckley contacted me and asked me if I would be willing to help out and to help finish this book along with a couple others. And since time travel had always been, a fascination of mine anyway, I was like, oh yeah, I'll be happy to. So I was basically sent this hodgepodge of papers and notes and half-finished thoughts and what have you. And then it was up to me to try to put it all together into coherent form and to, add stuff of my own as I saw fit. And that was the original version that was published in, I think, 1998, 1999, something like that.
Quite a challenge.
Yes. Oh yeah. Well, you have to remember at that time, it's like we were talking about earlier. I mean, the idea of time travel was still not really looked at very seriously by a lot of scientists, and mostly it was just within the realm of science fiction. But one of the things that really fascinated me in doing my research for this book, and then the Time Travel Fact Not Fiction, which is an update with lots and lots of new information and new science and a lot of new personal experiences of people who emailed me their stories. The thing that I found fascinating is the stories of what are called time slips. Which, I've taken that ball and run with it, on other articles as well. And, if you're not familiar with the term time slip, a time slip is an experience that someone will have where they will suddenly find themselves in what appears to be, a different timeline. Say a guy's walking down the street and all of a sudden everything changes around him. The concrete sidewalk suddenly turns into brick. Buildings disappear and, in their place are trees and fields, or old-fashioned buildings, instead of cars on the road, there are horse and buggies and things like that. And, the experience sometimes it's more just like a vision. Other times it's all the senses are involved. They can smell the air. It's cleaner. They can hear the sounds. There's even, been reports of interaction with other people or things. And then almost a sudden they find themselves back, into their original timeline. And, I tell you something, Royce, there are a lot of people out there who have had these strange experiences. And, I would say that we probably only get less than 1% of the actual reports, of people who
I was about to say a lot of people probably just pass it off as being crazy or drunk or who knows
Yep.
what else.
Oh yes, yeah. Well, and that's one of the things that has always fascinated me, about the whole, paranormal phenomena thing is that there are so many people who have had experiences that just they either they don't know what to make of it, so they don't tell anybody. They're afraid to say anything to anybody because they're afraid that they're going to be made fun of or thought of, as being crazy. And they just, those of us, who read about this stuff or listen to shows like yours, we're familiar, with these kinds of experiences. But, you take somebody who has never read about stuff like this, never heard, they don't watch, like ghost hunters or, watch these, shows on the Discovery Channel or anything like that. They have no idea what's going on. And if they have an unusual experience like this, they have no frame of reference at all in order to categorize or pigeonhole this experience. So they don't say anything about it. They don't tell anybody about it, because they're afraid to. And it's just, how many people out there have had these kinds of experiences that we will never know, that we will never find out about because they won't talk about it. They don't know who to talk to it about,
Could happen to everybody at least once in a lifetime, but not everybody will share.
Right. Or, a lot of people just will forget about it. It doesn't, it's so outside of their normal experience that, their mind just basically just seals it off, like a pearl almost. Just, they just wrap a bunch of stuff around it and hide it away into a corner of their mind and forget about it and go about their everyday life. Most people spend their life asleep. They every day is the same for them. They get up, they go to work, they go home, they watch television, they go to bed. They get up, they're like robots. So anything out of the ordinary that happens to them, if it's something that is so out of the ordinary that they have no concept of it, they just go and just, they'll just put it in the back of their mind and forget about it. Oh, well, it didn't happen. Or they'll come up with some kind of, well, I must have been dreaming or whatever. But yeah, there are so many people who have had these time slip experiences that I'm convinced that there is something going on. I don't know what. Are these people really experiencing, a past timeline? Are they experiencing a future timeline? There are people who have, who have reported that they have suddenly found themselves in, the only way they can describe it is, like a future city, like tall buildings that, that are made out of, looks like chrome with, ships flying through the air and like, cars on the road that have no wheels. Are these people actually experiencing, a slip, a window or a hole in time and space?
Or are they experiencing an attention shift? Awareness shift. Are they,
right.
if let's just say, for example, we were all living in, past, present, and future, all the timelines we ever created. There was a little piece of us in each one of them, like I said earlier. But maybe sometimes when you experience the slip, what you're really experiencing is your present attention that's here slipping over to one of the other timelines you'd have created before, in other words.
Right. Well, that would be a good explanation, except that there have been some situations where more than one person have experienced the same time slip at the same time. So, there could be some outside environmental condition that happens. Who knows? There have been people who said that, say like a thunderstorm was going on at the time, or who knows? We don't, we barely, we just have just the slightest understanding of our universe and how it works. I mean, we're just now discovering, like the whole concept of, that 90% of the universe is made up of a material that we can't see or experience. They call it dark matter for want of a better term. But that, less than 10% of what we see, makes up the universe. So, I mean, we're at that point where, I mean, we barely understand what's going on. So that, when you have experiences like this, the best we can do is just speculate. I mean, we may not even, these experiences may not even be time travel, as we traditionally think of time travel. I mean, we had talked earlier about different timelines, all branching off from each other at different times. Well, who's to say whether or not that time is made up of, an infinite number of times, some not moving at the same speed, so to speak, as our timeline. So that, maybe you're getting a glimpse into a parallel timeline that is a little bit slower or a little bit faster than our current timeline, but not directly related to the past or future of our own timeline. Does that make sense?
Actually, yes, it does. And again, you're dealing with quantum mechanics here, if you ask me, and I guess it might say, for want of a better term, and this is a theoretical area where almost all things are possible.
Right. I mean, there's been speculation that, there could be completely different worlds or realities that exist, just a microsecond behind our timeline or in front of our timeline. That if you could slow yourself down or speed yourself up just a little bit, in either direction, in the quantum time wave, that you would be in a completely different reality that has no relation to this one at all.
Okay.
Yeah. Once again, you're left things that make you go,
Well, yeah, and the thing is, most of what you're talking about probably is actually happening. We just don't understand the particulars of it.
Exactly. Well, and, I think that, that a lot of what we would call paranormal phenomena, probably exist within this realm of infinite possibilities that, at one time or another, manages to cross over into our own timeline, things, it's something that happens all the time, because the universe is constantly expanding
right.
and fluctuating, and I mean, it's just, it's like a, it's like a pond. I mean, it's always dynamic. It's always moving. And, so, I mean, you have these, these different things that are occurring all the time, drifting in and out of our reality. And who knows? I mean, we may be drifting in and out of other realities as well. But because because the rate of the movement of time is different in these other realities, that we wouldn't notice these drifts if we were the ones that experienced them. But say in another reality, you would see something, like a ghostly image of yourself that, remains for a couple of minutes. But to you, I mean, it would happen so quickly that, I mean, it wouldn't, it wouldn't even make a mark on your consciousness. I mean, you just, a blink of the eye, and then less than a blink.
Kind of like a subliminal message.
Right, exactly. And there has been, some speculation with a lot of UFO researchers that this is what's going on with the whole UFO phenomena, that we're not seeing extraterrestrial spacecraft, but instead you're seeing, something else from a different reality that is parallel, to our own, that just occasionally, interacts with our own. Somebody made a very good, mind image for that. Is if you were a fish in a pond and somebody would stick their finger into the surface of the pond, the fish has no concept of what's above the surface of the pond. So all he sees is your finger, and so he perceives your finger as a separate entity that just appears out of nowhere, into his reality, and then just as mysteriously disappears, not understanding that that's just a small part of, a larger you. And I mean, that could be the situation when it comes to, say, like UFOs or unexplained, monster sightings, Bigfoot, things like that. Ghost, exactly. You're just seeing a small section of something that is bigger beyond our mind being capable of understanding.
And if you were actually looking at you in another timeline, that could be pretty wicked too.
Right. Exactly. I mean, and that has been talked about before as well. That, our physical body in this reality is actually just, a smaller section of something a lot bigger. And of course, when I mean bigger, I don't mean, like a, like a giant someplace like that. But I mean, talking about something that is beyond, our 3 dimensions.
Or our scope of understanding or awareness.
Right, exactly. We perceive ourselves as being separate entities, in a 3-dimensional material world. But if you were be able to look beyond that, we could all be, part of something a lot larger. Again, use the concept of a fish looking at, if you would stick your hand into the water, where you would just see your 4 fingers sticking into the water, the fish would see 4 separate entities, but in reality, they're part of a larger structure. And that could be, our own reality,
Yeah, I remember there was an article I seen online about these guys that had a big argument about what a certain animal was, and they described the various parts of the animal and why they thought it was something different. Until they actually got a whole view of it, it turned out that it was an elephant, and they each had a different opinion because one was describing the tail, one was describing a foot, one was describing a trunk, and nobody was looking at the whole thing, and it gave them each a different perspective.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and that's the way that we are in this reality. I mean, we're like blind men trying to examine an elephant with just one sense, the sense of touch, or just a couple of senses, when in all actuality, I mean, the total reality of everything is just completely out of our reach. And I mean, we're just blindly stumbling about trying to offer up explanations for what we're seeing, based on just a limited viewpoint of our reality,
It might be that it has to be that way in order for the experience to be the way it is. I mean, let's just say, for example, we are all God, or parts of God, aspects of them. Let's say God was like a big ocean out there in infinity, and like the ocean, you could separate it into individual drops. In order for each individual drop, though, to have its own individual life, it would have to have its own individual awareness. If it had the whole awareness at once, it could ruin the total life experience, and the whole purpose of creation would be to live and have the experience. And if you wanted to have friends that disagreed, they'd have to have their own individual beliefs, and they couldn't be able to see yours.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's something that, spiritualists, have been talking about for quite a long time. That we're all basically just, like sparks off of, a God, creator, creation, what have you, that has to undergo its own, for whatever reason, its own individual experience in order to learn or grow. I can't say I totally understand the concept, but then again, that's what it's all about. I mean, it's part of the unknowable.
I wasn't so sure it was about it learning and growing so much as it was experiencing. I mean, before creation, if there was a God before everything, he had to be floating through infinity of space with no awareness, nothing to view, nothing to do, no internet, no world, no people. I mean, think about the boredom of it.
Yeah.
I mean, before anything existed but you.
Mm-hmm.
You'd create something just to have the experience, just so to break the boredom, whether you wanted to learn and grow or not, wouldn't you?
That's kind of a depressing thought, though, if you think about it, though.
Yeah, it is. Really.
Yeah, that basically you have to split yourself apart in order not to be bored.
Be surprised what it might take.
That's right.
So he kind of embeds parts of himself, aspects, into a little bit of everything to create a whole big walk-in holographic movie for himself, you might call it.
Right. Well, that also goes into the aspect there. Just very recently, there was a physicist from Canada who is saying that our universe is actually contained within a black hole of another universe, and that the black holes that are in our universe are universes within themselves, and that every time a black hole is created, that creates a big bang, so to speak, that creates a whole nother universe. So that fits very closely, into what you're saying,
Sounds like a great big Windows operating system. Windows inside of Windows inside of Windows are creations inside of creations inside of creations.
Exactly. And each one of those creations then carries a template from the universe that it originated from. Which then, is there a beginning to that? Was there a point somewhere along the lines where it started? Or has it just always been going? Once again, I mean, you got to
ask, was this here going on inside or outside of time as we know it?
Right.
Or is this all part of the great eternal now?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So if it's all part of the eternal now, then it had no beginning or no end. So, but are these questions we're ever going to be able to answer? That's the question.
Right. And that's, I mean, it's fun to speculate over, and, maybe someday we'll have a better understanding of it. I wonder though.
You get a better understanding.
I'm sorry?
I think when you're speculating, you get a better understanding. I mean, when you're speculating with somebody else and you're bouncing your ideas back and forth, sometimes when does the lights open up in the conversation, in other words?
Right, yeah. But will it ever come to a point where it can be, replicated in a laboratory, over and over again, that sort of thing? Or will it always just be, like I said, just mind games with people and theoretical physicists. I think there are some things that probably will never be completely understood, and this may be one of them. We can come close, but then it makes a lot of scientists uncomfortable because you're almost reaching into that realm of spiritualism, or I hate to use the word religion, because religion.
That's a nasty word.
Well, religion is religion's a man-made thing, while spirituality is the all-encompassing thing, and that makes a lot of scientists uncomfortable, because they don't, that's that place that none dare to tread. Who knows? Maybe there will be a day when the stigma won't be around that, that there'll be a coming of terms, so to speak. I mean, we've seen for generations where, it's, the two have almost been considered the antithesis of each other, that you can't have science, you can't have science and spirituality. It has to be one or the other. And to me, and I know with a lot of other people as well, I mean, that's to me, that's a silly concept. I mean, I think the two,
I think
the two are the same. Yeah.
Well, I think back in ancient Egypt and Samaria, they were the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they should be the same. They were never meant to be separated. And I'm pretty sure religion caused separation.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And I mean, we still see that today. I mean, you have scientists, who, I mean, although there's no such thing as, spirituality, the human soul doesn't exist, nothing outside of the material realm. And, and then you have like the extreme, religious, viewpoint where it's just like, gravity doesn't exist and the earth is flat or what have you.
Well, Tim, I gotta tell you, it's time snuck up on us and we run out of time. But I gotta ask you if there's anything else you want to throw out there.
Oh my gosh. If your listeners out there are interested in this subject or any other subjects, that, when it comes to the world of the weird and the strange, you just go to my website, which is, conspiracyjournal.com. I put out a free email newsletter every week. There's a place, on the website, you just, sign up for it. Give me, just send me your email address and, it's an aggregate of all the unusual stories of the week that I've got a lot of people all over the world that send me this stuff. And then you can get it for free. And,
can they go read the whole story for free at the website?
Yeah. If you get the newsletter through your email, you'll get it first, and then later in the week I put it up on the website, but those who actually have signed up for it, they get to read it first.
Oh, so the newsletter you sent out has the whole entire story on it?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Okay, I was thinking it came up with like, half of each story with a link to the rest, in other words.
Well, what I do with, a lot of times is that I send out like a small version with a link, with a secret link, so to speak, to the, so you can read it online. If, cause a lot of people have complained that, the whole newsletter, it makes their email box explode. Cause, there's there's pictures and things like that so for those who want to read it, online, you'll get like a short version with just an overall link that you can link to the secret place online, which then becomes available for everyone then later on in the week. But those who sign up, they get to read it first.
And of course, you've got numerous books that you and Commander X, and I think you and Timothy Beckley all worked on together over at Amazon. Am I right?
That's right. Just, go to Amazon.com. I mean, all of our books are available there. They're also, most of them are Kindle versions. Just type in my name, Timothy Green Beckley, Commander X, and, you'll find practically every book that we have out there.
You can also just Google Mr. UFO. Timothy Beckley was, known as Mr. UFO for many years.
That's right. And still is.
Yes, still is. I just don't hear a lot of people mention him anymore. I guess he just don't get in the public eye as much as he used to.
Oh, he does. We just recently, myself, Tim Beckley, Sean Castile, Olaf Phillips, we put out a new book called, The Ark of the Covenant.
Oh my God, I wish I'd known that. You and me could have talked about it.
Oh, well, see, that's something that we can talk about, the next time I'm on. But it deals with, secret weapons and technologies, from the ancient past.
Aha. Do you have any research into Moses and the real truth of the Exodus by any chance?
Possibly.
It's about Moses wasn't really Moses out there,
Right. Yeah. My section dealt with, secret spaceports and, the use of sacred sounds. So.
Oh yeah, cause I've read articles that they used to use sounds to levitate huge boulders.
Right. Yeah.
That would, cause I often had this theory myself that perhaps sound waves could displace gravity. If you could get a sound to go over an object, gravity could not put its force down on it, making it come up easier.
Well, I discussed that. Maybe not necessarily that, that concept. That's interesting, Royce. I need to look into that a little bit more.
Let's get some weird concepts.
Yeah. But, there's all kinds of, interesting, chapters, in this book. And it is just now coming out on Amazon. So, I mean, if it's not out there yet, it will be, sometime this week. So.
Well, that sounds like a definite winner to me.
Yeah.
Jim, my wife just got back from, church. She does the Wednesday night church dinner thing. And then me and her go back there and try to see if they got a new episode of Criminal Minds. So I guess I better go spend my time with her if I want to stay married a little while longer.
Well, Royce, thank you very much for having me on your show tonight. I had a great time. And I hope your audience enjoyed it as well.
Oh, I think they did, and I personally enjoyed it, and I look forward to having more conversations. I want to tell you, I do an every Thursday show over at Revolution Radio, but it's a 2-hour show. If you think you want to fill a slot on a Thursday at 1, I might have some openings coming up in September if you're interested.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about that.
All right. Well, I'm going to email you with that, probably tomorrow when I have a chance to look at my schedule. I want to go, like I say, meet with my wife right now. But if you're giving me the go-ahead to contact you, I'll be in touch.
All right. That's great.
All right. That sounds like a winner, folks. I want to appreciate y'all for coming to listen. If you did nothing but listen, you participated, and I appreciated it. Do not forget to invite your friends. Do not forget to help support Talk Now Radio. And don't forget to come back and see me tomorrow at Revolution Radio. I'm going to have 2 guests. One of them's going to talk about soul sensing. And the other one, I need to get her right up here in front of me where I can see, and I'm looking at August instead of at July. Not very bright, but okay. Janice Carlson's going to be talking about soul sensing, and Sandra Sneed's going to talk about what to do when you die. So y'all pop in over there at Revolution and give us a listen at freedomslips.com. With that, good night, everybody.